Also, I just want you to know that we started a trend.
You and I did?
We're actually influencers because now I've seen 2 or 3 people start different podcasts and they all went to Spring Hill. And I'm like,
We did it first, beach.
We're the originals.
You're listening to Enhance, the podcast dedicated to highlighting real stories told by real people.
Hello, Enhance listeners. Thank you so much for tuning back into another episode of Enhance Season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel like a DJ. Yeah, guys. Pop it up.
I used to think I could be a DJ.
I have fully convinced myself that I could be a DJ, that I could be a amazing choreographer. I could be a comedian. I could be the princess of the Koopas.
The princess of the what?
The Koopas, like in Mario and Luigi.
Oh my god.
Super Mario Bros.
Can we
Go
take a
ahead.
minute to look at these bags under my freaking eyes? Do you see that? How puffy the bags under my eyes are?
That's like what I look like every day.
Oh.
Welcome to adulthood. That's what it is. It's called stress.
You know, I used to have those bags under my eyes a lot, and I started sleeping.
You sleep? That's so good for you.
Yeah, here
I'm
recently,
really happy for you.
my sleep ain't been great here recently. But anywho, yeah. So, Gabby,
Dude, I'm gonna come back home. So guys, I might be moving home soon, and I'm gonna start having nightmares again. So maybe we'll have to have another dreams episode.
oh my god! Literally last episode I recorded, not the last episode, but last episode I recorded was the Weird Wednesday. My Weird Wednesday with Sid. It will come out in September.
Yeah.
Which I think won't this episode also? No, it comes out this month. No, it comes out in September. This episode will. Anywho, we don't know. We don't know.
Look at my calendar.
If you wanna, but literally the last episode that I recorded was my Weird Wednesday that's with Sid, and I told her a nightmare that I had, because she, her topic was lucid dreaming, and my topic was because I used to lucid dream all the time and without meaning to. And so I told her about the nightmare that I had that stopped my lucid dreaming and made it to where I haven't been able to really lucid dream since. And that's also when I started having sleep paralysis. And she was like, you know how you were nope, during the horror hump day last year? That's how she was during this. She was like, nope. She's like, I'm terrified, Sam. I'm terrified for you.
Yeah. Honestly, dreams are so interesting. I mean, we could talk about that for hours, but no, I'm gonna start having real I mean, not that my dreams aren't already in your face, but they're about to get 40 times worse. I'm so excited.
Love it.
Do you keep a dream diary? I do. I write all of them down.
Okay, so whenever I should have a dream diary, that's also something else that Sid and I talked about. But I just don't have the discipline to I mean, I've got the discipline for so many other things in my life, but keeping a dream journal, not one of them. I did start writing down my dreams though, whenever I started my little series on TikTok where I was like, let me tell you about the dreams that I had and see if you had similar dreams. I started writing them down then, whenever I'd remember, oh yeah, that was a weird dream I had, I'd write them down, or if I had a weird dream, I'd write it down just so I could talk about it on that series, but I haven't posted that series in a while, so.
Dang, maybe I should start one of those because
You should.
I have dreams written down. Well, at least in my phone. I don't know where the other rest of my journal was, but from 2018. So I should. Anyway. Some of them are weird. Anyways, what's up?
Yeah, I have an icebreaker for you.
What is it?
Let's not even pretend that literally you got on and was like, oh, do you have an icebreaker for today? And I went, oh.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that
I know.
one of us did.
I wouldn't have thought about it until we started recording if you wouldn't have said something. So I was like, you know what? But I mean, I have like I said, some saved up here, default ones in my noggin that are unused ones that I'm like, that's cool. I got that. So yeah. Nice. Luckily, I have not had to come up with that many this season.
I think I've come up with a good few, actually.
You have. You and Sid are the main ones that have come up with the icebreakers. Because I just did it for the people that I had guest hosts for. But yeah, anyways.
Look at you. You're pulling through. Good job. Gang.
Anyways, my icebreaker for you today is if you could give, and see, I feel like I've done this one before, but I genuinely am like, I don't know what episode I would have done this for. So if I've done it before, let's just pretend I didn't, okay?
Sure.
If you could give your younger you, so like 15, 16, 14, whatever age you think you would have needed it though, like younger you, advice, any advice that you know younger you would listen to, what would it be and why?
Why you always come up with these hard ones? Okay. Because like I don't know, there's so many things I wish like I told myself when I was younger. Like, I mean, you're gonna get through this. Don't do something you're gonna regret. Or like even like I don't know, like I have to think about this. I just blacked out. I had something and then it's like gone, and I was like, great.
You're like, suppress it. Don't
Right.
think about it.
Mental health, we love
Trauma.
it. Trauma.
Yeah, I have one that I can tell real quick while you're thinking if you want.
Yeah, do it.
So I would tell younger me, and I would specifically go back to like 15, 16-year-old me, and I'd like beg myself to not take things so seriously. Which I mean, I know that's like everybody does it, but like,
yeah.
but like whenever I was growing up very like Christian conservative, I just missed out on a lot of fun things that a lot of people my age that were also friends of mine. Like I missed out on a lot of fun things that they did that I didn't do because I was afraid, you know? And like, I'm not condoning like underage drinking. I'm not condoning like, you know, drug usage and things like that. But there were like parties that I could have had a lot more fun at if I wouldn't have been like, oh my God, there's alcohol here the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like even if I,
yeah.
yeah. And even if I didn't want to drink myself, like if I would have just been like more like, whatever, like there's alcohol here, I just won't drink, you know? But like I was just so like scared, and I was like terrified of going to hell and shit like that, where I just like held my breath my entire high school existence, you know? And like even whenever I got into college my freshman year, just because there was like that transition between like growing up really sheltered and like really like conservative Christian and everything to like go into a college where I was interacting with a lot of other people and like learning like diversity and learning like different walks of life and realizing like the way that I had been raised to think is not like the only way, you know? But anyways,
Right.
whenever I was going through, excuse me, when I was going through all of that,
I cannot with you right now.
anywho, when I was going through all that in college, I missed out on like a lot of really cool friendships I could have had because of how much like I just took everything so seriously. Like everything was such a big deal. And it really wasn't. It was just that I had never gotten the chance to like experience those things before. So things just seemed catastrophic to me when they weren't, you know? Like there's a lot of cool people that like I know I could have been like really good lifelong close friends with, that if I wouldn't have taken things so seriously and like damaged those friendships. And a lot of those people I still ended up being friends with throughout college. And like, especially my senior year, we came back around and became close again, like after, you know, having our sophomore and junior years of like growing, but it still isn't the same. You know, like I let loose a lot and really chilled out like by my senior year. And they like also understood what I was going through my freshman year and everything. So we were able to reconnect, but it's just like, I wish I could have just been that person the whole time and just enjoyed life a lot more, because I had a lot of fun in college, but I just wish I could have, there's a lot of things that I could have enjoyed more if I hadn't taken it so seriously, you know?
Yeah, I understand that. And I kind of relate to that on, you know, a level. But mine would just be like, take a deep breath and keep striding. Like stop letting people's opinions of you matter, because in the end of the day, they don't.
Yeah.
And like, I know we've probably have talked about this, but I was bullied a lot in like grade school, middle school era. Not as much in high school, but like it was like my dread and hell was middle school and grade school. And I listened a lot to other people's opinions. Like I would not talk, like I did not speak a lot until like, you know, 5th, 6th grade, when I finally like started forming opinions and like actually being able to stand up for myself and things like that. And I wish I was able to be, I guess, stronger sooner.
Yeah.
Just so I could have just like flicked it off my shoulder kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's the advice I'd give myself, because honestly, other opinions, they do matter, but they shouldn't matter that much.
Yeah.
Take it as a grain of salt, and I wish I learned how to take it as a grain of salt earlier in my life.
Definitely get that. And without making this episode about our icebreaker, because I feel like we could talk about this for so long. But like, I do think that I think it's really interesting because like you and I have never really talked about this before. Like, I don't think I've really talked about this with people before, but it's just like a thought I had, and specifically after like talking to you, I think it was specifically our like friend breakup episodes that we did. You started talking about like middle school and high school, and it was like shocking to me. Like, I first was like, whoa, like middle
Yeah.
school and high school, like you still think about like middle school and high school and like think about that. But then I was like, that sort of stuff does linger with you. Like those sort of things like do like I remember like there was this guy that I was like best friends with whenever I was really young, and then we became like almost rivals, and like we were part of the same friend group, but like we just did not vibe, and he was kind of like a dick to me, but also like he would call me out about stuff because like I would do shit for attention, not realizing I was like doing it for attention, and he would like call it out and stuff like that. But like that's like I remember in high school thinking like, why can't we just be friends again? You know, like he was like one of my best friends, and it was like one of the like nicest, like purest friendships I really had, you know? And we even reconnected during college for a little bit, just like being friends. And it was never like one of the, like, I have a lot of friends that like, there was a little bit of more than friendship going on. He was never like that. We never had like, it was just pure, like nice, innocent friendship, you know? And like, I still think about like, why couldn't we have just been friends? And I still think about that to this day. And I'm like, what, like, how would my life have been different if he and I would have kept being friends, you know? And like, I even saw him at the, without like locating who it is and stuff like that, just for their privacy and stuff like that. But I saw them at the Peach Jam and like that I went to this year, and they were there with their like company, like presenting and stuff like that and talking. And I got to chat with them for a little bit, but it's still just like, we're not friends on social media. I've tried like adding him on social media several times, and he just like doesn't accept it and stuff like that. He's always friendly with me when he sees me. And I always feel weird because I'm like, am I looking into this too much? Like, should I even be grieving a friendship like that from childhood, that like missing that? But it's like, whenever I mean, that stuff sits with you, you know, and like you talking about it kind of got me thinking about it, like, and realizing, no, like you should give yourself time to think about those things and like miss those things, you know?
Yeah, I think for me, I've always wanted to talk about bullying, and I know we're thinking about making that one of our topics this season. Um, but like that was a lot of trauma for me, and that's why it sticks so closely. But I still do have friendships from like middle school, grade school era, but like are we as close? Like no, but you know, we still like I literally went to, what was it? Last year or the year? No, 2 years ago, I went to one of their weddings,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, I was so happy to be there, and, like, we did plays and choir and things together, and it was good to be there, but, like, that was one of my only really good friends in middle school, grade school era,
Yeah.
but that's where also a lot of my character growth is, so you kinda have to accept that it's still gonna be a part of you whether you're, you know, an adult or you're still a child, whatever.
Not to be that bitch, but like, do you want to make our topic today about like bullying and like reflecting on middle school and high school and stuff like that, and
Should
like
we just change it
messages
up
to your younger
for a
selves?
yeah, should we just change it for a third time?
You know,
I mean,
why
I don't
not?
care. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I think that's fun. Let's keep talking about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like this conversation. I like where it's going today. So
Oh my god, look at an icebreaker just changing everything for
I
the episode.
know.
It's so cute.
That was such a fun icebreaker, though. So I think
It
it's
is.
cool that we're like shifting into it. But yeah, so I guess today to introduce our topic, since we just kind of like decided it on the fly, is that we're going to talk about like one, like reflecting on bullying, but also like reflecting on childhood and just like your younger self and like how those things can impact you in adulthood. Because I feel like in the world, like, you know, you hear about people talking about childhood trauma all the time. And like people take it seriously when you talk about that because they think like childhood trauma, oh, like you had an abusive parent or you had some type of terrible thing that happened to you when you were a child. But like small things, and I put air quotes around that for the
Air
people that are
quotes,
listening
right.
instead of, you know, video watching, which instead of watching it on YouTube. But however you're consuming this, we appreciate it. So thank you. But I did put air quotes around like small things because little things still have an impact on your life. You know, like there are small things that like I know that there was and again, without trying to triangulate who it is and everything, and like without outing myself, because I do now live back in my hometown and I do talk to some people from high school and stuff like that. But there was somebody that I was like not involved with, but like kind of involved with. And I talked about this a little bit in the episode I did with Kiera last season that was like dating in adulthood and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there was somebody that like I had more than friendship feelings for, and we were like good friends through a lot of the time whenever I was younger, that like I still like have trauma from that. And it's not
Sure.
like it was not like an abusive relationship or anything like that. There was never anything like that at play. It's just there was a lot that went into it. Like there was tons that went into it. Like I got picked on for like being friends with this guy, or well, more so he got picked on for being friends with me because everyone suspected that I was gay, you know? And so people were like, oh, well, you know, you and Sam, like, blah, 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 you know, like doing
Right.
what freaking teenagers do. And like, it just really sucked because one, I know those people probably don't feel bad at all. They probably don't look at what they were doing as bullying. So it's just like, there's no growth there. But also like, how many opportunities do people like me, and not to be like, not to play the victim here, but you know, like how many people that are like me that are part of the LGBTQ plus community, how many opportunities to like find a like partner or find someone who we could be happy with is diminished and like destroyed by the fact that society won't let us just be who we are. And like now there's like at my high school, I was having lunch with my friend that I won't say their name just because I didn't get her permission to talk about her on the podcast, but I was getting lunch with a friend from high school and she's a lesbian. And so she was talking about how like when she was in high school, I remember this very vividly. And about to be some tea here. And again, I'm going to be very careful with what I say just because I don't want to mess with anybody's privacy or anything like that. But she was in a lesbian relationship in high school. And she was one of the only like out gay people at my high school. And so when it came to our senior year, I was the senior class president. So I was in charge of like getting all the who's information together so that people could vote on it and like picking the categories we were going to pick or we were going to like vote on and everything. And so I gathered up all the couples' names. And I gathered up hers and her girlfriend's name. And keep in mind, like my senior year, I was going through a lot of transitions and stuff like that. Like at this point in my senior year, I was still like closeted. I was still like very conservative, going to church. I was even like cringe moment. I was like preaching at my church sometimes. And like, yeah. So, because I was like on the route to be a preacher.
Right. I mean, you had a full like 180.
Yes, I very much did. So, but I just didn't think about it. I was like, they're a couple. Like, why wouldn't I put their name on the ballot? You know? And so I put their name in the whole like thing for people to vote on. And I was approached by this guy that was a senior at the same time that I was. His girlfriend was also a senior. I had been really close friends with both of them in the past, but to talk about bullying, his girlfriend is actually one of the people that like outed me several times and would like talk bad about me behind my back and stuff like that. But they were dating, and honestly, if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't have been dating because her ex, I remember this so vividly, her ex tried starting a bunch of like shit with her and him when they very first started dating and was threatening to like beat him up and shit like that. And I remember this dude was one, he used to also bully me, and I like went psycho. And this is where like Dark Sam, you remember, did you ever watch like Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah.
You know Dark Sansa or whatever, when she was like born. This is when Dark Sam was born, and so he was like bullying me. And one day I just fucking lost it and like scared the shit out of him and like manipulated him and made him think that I could like ruin his entire life. And it worked. He stopped bullying me. And so whenever he started like picking on his like my friend who was dating my other friend, I remember I went to him and was like, dude, leave them the F alone. Like,
Yeah,
I will
like,
ruin
calm
your entire
down.
life. Like, yeah. And so and I'm not saying it was because of this, but he did transfer schools shortly after that. It was not because of this, but like he left them alone after that too. And so, but anyway, so they like, then I was like, no, y'all should be together. Like, you're happy. Like, he's not going to mess with you anymore. And he didn't. So anyway, but he approached me, the friend, that I was not close to anymore because of all the times that his girlfriend had like outed me and shit like that. He approached me and was like, why? Like, I saw that their names were on the ballot for who's for cutest couple. Like, and I was like, yeah, like what? And his girlfriend's name were on there too. So like, keep that in mind. Like, it wasn't he was left out.
It was a fair game. It was a fair game.
And I was like, yeah. And he was like, dude, that's a sin. That's not okay. Like, they shouldn't be on there with us. I looked at him because here's the thing. This is where I have to be careful triangulating this, because I'm like, there's only so many people that people could narrow this down to if they listen. But honestly, I don't care, because this still baffles me to this day. He and his girlfriend had a baby on the way from where they had had sex outside of wedlock, which is a sin. You know what I'm saying? And
Jesus Christ,
yeah.
help them.
And so
Oh
they had
no.
a baby on their way. They still were not married. You know what I'm saying? Like, but they were together and their parents were in, like, you know, helping them get things together, and they were going to get married after high school and all this other stuff. And he literally had the audacity to be like, it's a sin. They shouldn't be on here. I literally looked at him dead in his face. And I think this is where my like deadpan look was born, because you know how like sometimes when people are talking, I'm just like, you know,
Right,
like,
right.
because like Haley and Morgan like pick on me about that all the time, but like not in like a being mean picking on me way, like in a like that's so funny
No,
that you do that kind of
it's
way. But
so
I'm just like,
funny.
you know, and so I just
Yeah.
looked at him like waiting for like the punchline to the joke, and he was just like looking at me, and I was like, okay, we'll just take every center off, so I'll make sure to remove yours and your girlfriend's name too. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, that you're saying this, but that's coming from someone who's having a baby out of wedlock. And he was just like. And I was like, okay. And I walked off. And like,
Jesus.
I just, you know, mind boggling, mind blown. Like, if I were to ever like try to have been with somebody in high school, like that's the kind of shit I would have had to go through, you know? And like the people that kept me from being able to be in a relationship with somebody or like be involved with somebody that I cared about by picking on us or picking on someone that they suspected and everything, like there's probably no remorse. And like even that story that I'm telling now, because like I've reconnected with the girl that was in that couple like now in adulthood, and like we're fine. We're just like old adult friends. You know what I'm saying? Like we comment on stuff on Facebook, we chat. I pulled some not cool shit on her one time, and I just did something that's always weighed on my conscience. So I reached out to her and apologized like in adulthood. And cool. She never apologized for any of this shit she did to me, but I don't really care because that's not what an apology is about. Like I apologize to her for my part, you know? So like no beef, no like hate at them, but it's just like I that kind of that trauma of like feeling like I was living in a fishbowl and feeling I was living like and going to school in a place where like all eyes were on me at all times. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of, it still sits with me. And like, I still think about it to this day. And I still find myself sometimes like wanting to shrink myself when I'm out in public here. Cause like, I'm afraid, like, what if I run into somebody that, you know, whatever. And I'm like, why does it matter? Like, you know, but it still weighs on me.
Yeah, and you know, trying to kind of to pull my side into this, my bullying was, like I said, young age. I mean, yes, I had some of it in high school, but it wasn't as prominent to me because at that point I had my own voice, I had my own opinion, I could stand on my own 2 feet. I didn't feel like I was in a bubble, but when I was in middle school, grade school era, absolutely felt like I was in a bubble, like just not being able to be myself and figure out my life. I mean, I had comments like, you know, because I'm Lebanese, obviously it's a running joke, lesbian, that you're a lesbian and blah, 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 because no one knows how to read, I guess, because why do they do that?
No one has an original thought.
Right. And I mean, and I don't take like super offense to it or anything. I just like, I'm like, well, I'm not. So oopsies. Or like how many times, just because I was and you know, again, this is my opinion, like I'm sure like other people have other opinions on this, but I very much felt like a lot of my bullying was because I was a minority and that my family wasn't rich, and it for me in my class it became a problem because I mean it would be like your hair is like a rat's nest, because I used to have like big afro curls.
Oh my
and like
gosh.
yeah, and they would like throw paper planes in my hair. Or like one time I had a lot of like breathing issues, like because I had really bad allergies and we were trying to figure out like what was the cause of the allergy, and I would have to like breathe from my mouth, so I was a mouth breather, and like behind me in line they would go like to make fun of me because I couldn't breathe. And just things like that. I have a vivid memory. I won't say names, but I have a vivid memory of them like making fun of my body, and because I was the first one in my class to develop boobs. Woo. And I just remember like these girls, like we were literally in line for religion class. And I know, like, of course.
Did you go to like a private like religious school?
Yes, I went to a private it had all genders in there, school, Catholic school.
All
And
right,
yep, it's I've been wearing plaid for a very long time. That's
Oh,
why.
yeah.
That's
See, I
how
went
I
to
say
public.
it.
Yeah, I went to
No,
public high school, and
I've
we
been
didn't
in
have
private.
uniforms.
Yeah, I've been in private school my entire life. Like even college is technically a Catholic private school.
Yeah, like
So
college was because that's where I went to. But I will say, like, I enjoyed the private school life in college. I will say that at least.
no, the college experience is 10 times different because
Yeah.
like you really do whatever that you want, whatever. But like I remember this group of girls were talking about me and how I had boobs, and they were like, yeah, like Gabby has boobs and blah blah blah, blah. And I like started getting insecure. And if you haven't seen the Barbie movie, I'm so sorry, but like I really relate to that because in the Barbie movie they even were like she comes into the real world and she's like, I'm insecure, and I'm like, yes, like that's how I felt. Like my body was changing, and she's like, I'm insecure, and I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
And so I turned the girl and I said, oh yeah, I do, like I do have boobs. And she was like, I was talking about the other Gabby. There's no other Gabby.
Bro.
The other Gabby is in 8th grade. Okay. Because this was like 5th, 6th grade timeage in my life. And I was like, sure you were. And then I literally I was like confident, but then I literally sat down at the desk and I started sobbing. And like I had a male teacher, and it's not like I could have like told him what was up. Because like, I mean, I'm sure he would have like been able to like redirect and like try to make me feel supportive, but
make you go to the nurse's office.
right. Well, I mean, there was a time where I was playing on the playground and some guy just came up and grabbed my boobs, and I felt bad because he was someone that I considered a friend. I don't think he considered me a friend at the time. I don't know. We were children, so like, yeah. So like, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But then like one of his friends that was a girl pretty much came up to me and was like, you got him like expelled or whatever it was. I don't remember the punishment. Like
victim
shame
blaming
on you. Yeah. And I was just like, so like I've had a lot of ranges of bullying in my day. But I finally stood up for myself to like the main bully in like 6th grade. We were in math class. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I love telling this story because it's just so funny. Like if you were an adult and this happened, like you just be like, okay, whatever. But like as a child, this incident, I was like, oh my God, I finally did it. Like I finally stood up for myself.
Yeah. That's a big deal when you're a kid.
Oh yeah. So it was 2 guys were next to me. We were in math class doing like this math computer program thing. And so it was the 2 guys, me, and then the rest of the class was like an L. So everybody else was like sitting. And the guy looked at his friend and he goes, watch this. And then he turns to me and says, you're a bitch. And I said, because, as a middle schooler, I don't know what cuss words are. I was very sheltered. Okay.
I feel that.
And I said, what? And I like turned, I was like, what? And he's like, you're a bitch. And he's like laughing with his friend. He's like, and then he turns back around. Dude, he turns back around and I slapped him across the face, like backhanded him across the face. And he started crying. And I said, if you ever say that to me again, I will go tell, I used the teacher's name, but I was like, I'll go tell the teacher and we'll have this all situated. Do I make myself clear? And he was like, yeah. I said, go do your math program. Okay. And so he's like sitting there sobbing. The friend is like shocked, like no idea what's going on. And I'm sitting there like doing my math. And so I literally went home to my mom and I was like, Mom, this is what happened, like just in case it blows back at me. And she was like, yeah, Gabby, beat him up, but like only if he puts hands on you first. And I said, okay, Mom.
That's so funny. Also, side note, not to self-promote for a second, but if you're watching on YouTube and see me waving this around, this is one of the sage, or not sage, it's not sage, that's cultural appropriation. This is a mixed herb bundle that I made by hand, and I sell it on my store, Mage Farms. So you should go check it out. But anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, I need good vibes after talking about all that shit.
I know, I'm like sitting here trying to cleanse the energy through the computer. But yeah, but if you're not watching on YouTube, what's happening is I lit one of my little bundles and I'm waving it around the screen just because I was like, cleanse the energy. But yeah, That like, I don't know, it's so crazy to me that like all that stuff happens to you, but like we're like told as adults to like leave stuff from childhood behind. Like we just like are basically made it out to be like, oh well, kids will be kids, you know, some boys will be boys. Like, and it's like, no, like literally, not to like call it like it is, and trigger warning everybody, I'm gonna use some language here, but like sorry to just kind of put it out there like this, Gabby, but like you were literally SA'd. You know what I'm saying? Like you were literally sexually assaulted. Like that dude walked up to you and touched your boobs without your permission. And he got in trouble, rightfully so. I mean, y'all were kids, so there is a little bit of a different story. You know what I'm saying? It's not like
no.
like,
And
you know, like, but he still should have been punished, which he was. And then somebody had had the audacity to come to you and victim blame you. Like,
correct. Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know. I don't think about it. I mean, I think about it because it is SA. Like, I totally agree. But like, I don't. It's like I don't want to say like I don't take it as seriously, but I do take it seriously because I literally remember being so like I couldn't breathe. Like and you know, I was really close with the nurse at our school at the time because she was a family friend. Like her husband was like a doctor for like my two younger brothers. Like we were really close and she was really there for me in that moment. And I didn't know how to react. And I was just like, you know, crying, but like didn't understand why it was, you know, as a kid, it's a very weird place to be.
Yeah.
It's a very, very weird place to be. I don't know. But like, did that friend of his that was like, and she was a woman, you know, she's a girl, but she's a woman now, but I'm sure she like she thought about it and was like, maybe I should have just like not said anything. But like, what are we gonna do?
I hope as a woman she does. Like I hope as a woman she thinks about that and is like, I can't believe I victim blamed another girl, you know? And I mean, obviously, like I said, like we were all children, but like kids like struggle so hard with like trigger warning, suicidal ideation, self-harm problems, like depression, self-esteem. So like we need to be teaching kids, like there's something, and this is like, I never thought that I would talk about this on the podcast. Like never thought I would talk about this, but I'm about to be very, very vulnerable for a second. I don't know if you and I have even really talked about this, and I'm not going to go into detail just because it is something that I'm like very ashamed of and something that I think back on, and it took me a very long time to become comfortable even talking about it, because like I went through like therapy. I talked with a good friend of mine. Sadly, she is one of the people that like I'm not friends with anymore, but she was like my like longest friend up until we stopped being friends. But I confided in her about this and she helped me kind of like come to terms with it. But like there are things that I did as a kid that is inappropriate. You know what I'm saying? Like I did to someone else that was inappropriate. And like I did not like there's a line where like things it's like, okay, that's way too effing far. You know what I'm saying? And never crossed that line. But there's still things where it's like just inappropriate things to someone else. You know what I'm saying? And because I didn't know, and I don't want to use that as an excuse because it's not an excuse. Like that kind of shit still causes trauma. As someone who has had like traumatic things happen to them and like had people do inappropriate things to them, it still causes trauma. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's not like it's like, I'm not trying to make it sound okay. You know what I'm saying? But because like one, I was so sheltered, and two, like I was not taught about being gay. I was not like literally, I wish I could explain to people, but like I did not understand why people kept calling me gay whenever I was in high school, because like everybody always said being gay is a choice. And that people always said that like being gay, like they describe being gay as this like otherworldly thing. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's like, that's so crazy that people could even like the same sex. Like that's so like offhand, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like I was ever able to be educated about it. So like anything that had to do with me liking another guy, I just like diluted it in my head and made it something else. You know what I'm saying? And so like, because I didn't know, and because like we also don't have great sex education and things like that in schools, and people aren't taught about like the like black and white of consent. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean that in like yes means yes, no means no. I mean in the like, if somebody doesn't say yes, like that's a no. You know what I'm saying? If somebody says yes and then changes their mind, that's still a no. You know what I'm saying? Just because somebody said yes before, just because they haven't like said no now, doesn't mean that's a yes now. You know? And so it's like, if there aren't those like you know what I'm saying? Like, and I remember whenever it very first clicked for me, it was like my sophomore year in college when I was learning about consent and actually learning about like sex education and like gay sex education. It was in a class and they talked about like consent. And I thought back to that moment in high school whenever I like did what I did, you know what I'm saying? And like, I literally was like, I just immediately felt like guilt. And I went and talked to my boyfriend at the time about it too. And he was like, well, he's like, I understand why you feel this way, but you didn't like commit a crime. Like you didn't like assault someone. He was like, that's a very specific situation. He's like, but I do understand why you're feeling the way you feel. And I even reached out to the person that it involves because like it was a very toxic, like very both ways toxic situation. But ultimately, like this situation that I'm thinking of, it was with a guy in high school. And it was like probably a situation, I would say situationship, but there was never really like, again, I took things way too seriously and like made things such a bigger deal than what they had to be. So I say situationship specifically for like the situation, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, but it lasted probably almost like 2 years, like a year and a half to 2 years. And it was very toxic both ways. But this is one of the only times that I really say like I was the main like toxic person in that. Like things did not have to be as toxic and as like extreme as they were, but I made them that way. You know what I'm saying? And like he was not innocent. He did kind of string me along in ways. He did like make it seem like he felt certain ways for me that he didn't, or that he did feel that way, but then wouldn't let himself because of the fact that he was afraid to like be out, you know?
Right.
But like at the end of the day, I still like if you put what he did to me and what I did to him on a scale, like mine by far outweighs what he did. And there's not many situations I would like confidently say that about. You know, I've been in other situations where like it's been very mutual just because I've had to deal with toxic traits and like other people have also had toxic traits. There's also situations where I'm like, no, like I contributed to it, but I was not the main aggressor. This is a situation where I was the main aggressor, you know? And so like I even reached out to him. I think it was like my junior year. It was the summer between my junior and senior year in college, and like just apologized to him. And I was like, I'm so sorry for like everything I did to you. And he accepted the apology and he was like, thank you, you know, like I appreciate it. And like he was like, no hard feelings. Like I think you just were going through a lot and really needed somebody to like talk to that could understand you and blah blah. And like, you know, he was right, you know, but yeah. So just being somebody who has like caused trauma like that, if there would have been like somewhere to be educated, somewhere to have a course correction on like what even just bullying, and I don't mean that as in like a just bullying, like because my situation wasn't exactly bullying, but like what that can do to somebody else, like how that can impact someone else, you know? And like this is another thing that we have kind of talked about and we've mentioned talking about it on the podcast, and I'm not going to go into detail just because I think it would be cool to have an episode later on, but like I have been sexually assaulted. Like I was in adulthood, like after college, by someone that I was very close friends with. And like the idea that like what that person did to me is not what I did, you know what I'm saying? Like I did not like I said, there's a obvious line of like, yeah. And like, but it's still just like, I think about those things where it's like, that person, and I even confronted them because it was somebody that I was good friends with, and they still like just the way that they went about it. It was like, and like I said, we can do an episode on it, but like if there was just education on like what is consent, what is not from a young age, and then like if there was just education on like this is the impact that you can have on another human being. Like the fact that those kids were just like making fun of you for a health issue, that's just like mind-boggling to me, that children can be that cruel, you know?
Yeah, well, and our school, my class specifically, I think had the most bullying. I won't say that the whole school didn't have a bullying issue because they fully did, but our class was like the class that everyone knew was like kind of a shit show. And there was another guy who he came in, I don't even know what grade, but in a younger grade, and he had a lot of issues, and he definitely got pushed to being kind of an oddball. And you know, I look back at our time, and I tried to, you know, be nice and like help him out and just be someone to talk to for him. And people would be like, why are you talking to him? And I'd be like, well, because he's a person and he looks lonely and wants to talk to someone. Like, why would I not, you know? And I mean, I mean, you can literally ask my mom, not that she's ever going to be on the podcast, but you could literally ask my mom. Like, I used to come home crying every other day, if not every day. And like being like, you know, what is going on? Like, why do people hate me? And like, what did I do to them? And, you know, my mom bless her heart, you know, she came, you know, because I'm first generation American, if you did not know. And so my mom and dad both came from a whole nother country, a whole nother school system. Like, she didn't know what really bullying was. And my mom was really blessed to have that like uh confident attitude at a very like young age. But for me, I didn't have that. And so I was, and you know, she didn't understand what I was talking about when I was crying to her. So I don't really blame her for that. But I do say, like, you know, if you just pulled me out and put me in public school, maybe I would have like had a better time. But I mean, that wasn't her fault. Like,
Yeah.
the school tried to implement some things. Like, they tried to do like a whole bullying program, and like, what is bullying? Like, we had like rules outside of the playground that said like, what is bullying? But like, you know, when, I don't know, we had another sexual assault type of thing happen before they finally expelled the 3 boys that were really causing the most issues. And poor guy, I won't even say the story, but it was pretty much like a very invasive scenario. And we literally got pulled into like a classroom, and you could kind of tell, because like our whole class was in one classroom. There was like 120 of us or something like that, you know, 60, like, well, like maybe 90 to 100. I'm gonna take that back there, because there was about 30 kids in each room. And so we were all pushed into one room, and we were told like, they're, you know, they're getting expelled, they're being escorted out by the police right now, like, because it was a really big problem.
Yeah.
And you could tell who the bullies were because they would cry. And then, because they were friends with them, you know, and it wasn't the fact that they were also being like huge bullies, but they were definitely bystanders that agreed to watch it, because they were like, those 3 boys were so controlling of our classroom and of our class. And you could tell who the people who were more like victims were, because I remember we were told, and across the room, there was this one guy, bless his heart, he is so smart, and he used to like draw these awesome, like, and you know, I'm gonna say guns and stuff, but like, he would draw like machinery and stuff. Like, he was so smart, so smart, so creative, like, could tell you every little mechanic of anything, you know, like, he was just really cool like that. I remember me and him looked at each other, and we smiled. It was a very short, brief smile, but it was like, wow, we're like free
Relieved.
from this.
Yeah.
'Cause we've been through it since kindergarten with these people, like, and it's just the impact of like what you say to people is so grand. But also, like, we don't have a lot of education, and I'm sure it's different now, but like, we still don't have a lot of education of like how your childhood does traumatize, because you're taking in so much information at such a young age that those feelings are really real, and that you don't understand them because your brain's not developed. And so you need that extra like something to kind of help weave it out and make it not just a lesson, but also a safe lesson, rather than like, I'm having anxiety, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I know one thing that it just like that my mind goes back to this, and I'm making like, I guess because a lot of my bullying was based around my sexuality, so I guess that's why I keep making this episode about that. But like, so apologies to anybody that like, you know, but that's just like, I guess what the majority of my experience is from. And so but I remember when it very first started, like, I was like a really popular kid, you know, like, I was like, and throughout like middle school, like, I was known as like just a really nice person, really kind person, and like, I was friends with the other popular kids, you know. And so but then whenever I got into like 4th grade is whenever I started like being a little different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like started drawing more, and like I did a lot of art. And I remember there was this one time that my teacher, it was my 4th grade teacher, she's the one who like birthed my like love for writing, because she one time we had to do this like writing assignment, and I just like blew her away with like how I was writing. And she was like, this is like amazing. She was like, this is like written at like almost a high school level. And I was like, and you know, and I wasn't like smart or really many other things, but like, and not saying, I mean, I've always been like a smart kid, you know what I'm saying, quote unquote, but like, and so, but like, that was the thing that like I excelled at. And she was like, this is amazing. And so she literally called my mom and was like, your kid is like gifted when it comes to writing. And so she had these little thin blank books that were like had just a blank cover on it that was like almost like canvas material that you could like write on and things like that. And so and like you could draw on them, and then the pages were like empty, so you could write whatever you wanted to. And so she would give them to me and get me, she was like, don't tell any of the other kids, but like I want to give you this. And she was like, go write me a story, and I want to like I want to keep it in my classroom, because one day when you're a famous author and a famous writer, I want to be able to say that I have your first book. And like
that is so cute. Oh my
I
God.
know, like literally I still like I get kind of emotional when I think about it, because she like birthed my love for writing. And honestly, like I don't know where she is today, but Miss Easterlin, you a real one. Anyways, like
Shout her out. Shout her out.
but Miss Easterlin that taught at Verbena High School for the 4th grade, you a real one. Anyway, so
Wow.
but yeah, so I remember I would like do like write and like these books and everything and leave them in there. And so I started like getting my mom would just get me like blank notebooks, like blank like sketchbooks to write in and draw in and stuff like that. And we had like the way our like classroom was set up was that like for in the 4th grade we would like be in one classroom for most of the day, then we would go to another classroom for like just 1 or 2 classes, then come back to our main classroom. And so we had our little cubbies, and there were desks lined up next to the cubbies. There were these kids in the other class. I remember they were like some of my first bullies. They took my like booklet out of my cubby and started like making fun of me, because I would draw these like little like monsters or creatures or like fairies and things like that, and I would name them. And it was like I wasn't allowed to watch Pokemon and things like that when I was growing up, because conservative Christian. And so
Pokemon.
yeah, and so I would create my own little versions of like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, things like that. And so I would just like name them and give them names and like write what their powers were and stuff like that. And so they started like making fun of me. And they like literally took my notebook and were like showing everybody and like going around and saying like literally saying stuff like, are you going to get your monsters to attack me and blah blah blah, like yeah, stuff like that, like literally being so mean to me. But that was like the first time that like really bullying was a problem for me. And then whenever I like, and they just like made fun of me for being creative. And so but really where it like really started like into junior high and high school was whenever I was in a class, and it was the main bully that I was talking about earlier that was like his ex-girlfriend was my other friend that like outed me a lot, and then her current boyfriend and now husband was the one who was like, they're lesbians, they shouldn't be part of this like voting or whatever. Like that original bully, I was, because we were all part of the same friend group, but he would still like pick on me all the time, and I was like the person in the friend group that he would pick on, but I was still friends with everybody else in the friend group, so I just kind of like put up with it. And so I was sitting next to him in one of our classes, because in one of our classes, it was like our music appreciation class or something like that, or music history class or something. We all sat like at tables instead of like desks. And so there was a point where I literally don't know like how they choreographed this or what they did, but basically, long story short, he literally, I think there was a point where, because you know how like you're like on the at tables, there's like the bars from the legs, and if you're sitting on the end, you like prop your feet on the bars. Well, I always sat on the end, and I had my feet propped up on the bars. Well, apparently one of my feet was not on the bar, it was on his foot. And so he got the other people at the table to like look under the table and told everybody I was playing footsies with him. I still don't know if that's even what happened. He could have just made it up. I could just be like giving him the benefit of the doubt for no reason. He could have just made it up, but they all were like little, and it was so stupid. You know how like 7th grade
No,
boys just
it's
make like
so
stupid stuff. Literally,
So
they were
stupid.
going around and they were talking to me, and I was like, what are y'all even talking about? And it was 2 guys. One of them was the guy that I was talking about at the beginning, where like we were really good friends when we were young, and I was like, why can't we just be friends? Because we became like rivals in high school. And then the other one was this guy that I was like good friends with even into high school after this situation, and like we just kind of grew apart. Like he hated me my senior year because I was just going through a lot my senior year, and then I was like very bitchy, and then also then I got outed, and he's very conservative, so he just hated me. But we were really, really good friends for a while. But they were literally like laughing about me and talking about like, you know what you did, and I was like, no, I genuinely don't. Like I don't know what I did. And they were like, you, and then I won't say that, like they were like, your foot. Then they said the guy's names, foot and railroad crossing sign. And I was like, that makes what are you even saying? But basically I found out, and they like spread it all over the school, because I went to a very small school, and they like spread it all over the school. Like so many people were like talking about me, and like I would just hear people over saying things, and that sort of like nature carried on throughout all of my high school. And like I'll never forget, there was one instance where I had these friends that like I'm friends with still today that I like went to summer camp with, and that's where we met. And they one of them was talking about how we were talking about how much we loved Josh Hutcherson. That was it. We were talking about how much
Love
we loved
that.
Josh
Oh my
Hutcherson.
God.
And I was like, yeah, like big fan of Josh Hutcherson. I was so closeted at this point. I definitely looking back, I'm like, oh, I think he was like one of my like celebrity crushes when I was growing up, but I can't really tell you because I don't really vividly
I
remember. I
mean,
just know that I was
he
a big
was a
fan.
lot of people's.
He was.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, I think he was, but like I don't know because at that moment in time I was so closeted and like the idea of like openly liking a guy was like not even in my brain, you know? And so, but I remember she was like, if you like him so much, I dare you to make him your man crush Wednesday or man crush Monday or whatever it was. And I was like, okay, cool. So I did it on Instagram. I was like, ah, ha, ha, it's funny. Like I'm doing it. And that was during the summertime. Months later, first week of school, months later, somebody is talking to me about it. Like they were all talking about it at a table, and I walk up and sit down, and they all get quiet. And one of them was like, so Sam, why'd you have a man crush Monday? And I was like, what? And they were like, you posted about this person that was your man crush Monday. And I was like, I like literally had to think back because it literally was such a small thing to me. Like I didn't think anything of it. My friend literally was like, you should do it. Ha ha ha. And I was like, yeah, ha ha ha. You know, like didn't think about it, but they like literally all took that shit and ran with it. And of course it was after the 7th grade, whenever the whole like footsie incident happened. So people were just like looking for reasons to like, you know what I'm saying? Like looking for reasons to just call me gay and talk about me and shit like that. And so I literally was just like, I think in that moment, when I remembered, I lied and was like, oh my gosh, like my friend hacked my account and thought it would be funny, and I just forgot to take it down. And they were like, oh, okay, ha 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 ha, you know. And I told my friend, like, even though like I know none of them would ever reach out to like my friend, I literally messaged her and was like, if anybody from my high school, because she lived like hours away from me, but I was like, if anybody from my high school like ever reaches out to you and asks you if you hacked my Instagram and put Josh Hutcherson as my like man crush Monday, please tell them you did. And she was like, okay, I will. So you know, she was a real one. So
oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I mean, I remember like even like minute things, like you moved my water bottle. Like that's awful that you did that. Like stupid little mini things. Like a big thing for us was making like little like heart chains, like where you like draw a heart and then you draw it upside down and then you draw it again and you like make it cute and like you put a little message and like the four of us, there was like a group of 4 desks together, and I was like, oh, I want to learn. They wouldn't teach me how to do it. They literally were like, you're not part of this group, blah, 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 blah. Like stupid things. And it's just like, okay, awesome. So I learned how to do it by myself, and I am glad I did, because I can do it all the time now and nobody can tell me anything.
Period.
But like, it's stupid things like that. Like so for me, it's like I've really struggled with being unwanted. And I recently had that feeling come back to me. I won't go into the situation because it's really not that important at this moment, but I just remembered how awful it made me feel, you know, like how unwanted I was and how I felt like nothing to these people. And it's just really sad. It's really sad to have that at such a young age when you're just learning about yourself. You're learning about other people. You're learning about other cultures, other people's mentalities. Like, it's a shame that someone like me or just anyone in general feels like they're just not wanted. And it's just a really sad feeling to feel. And I do hate that people feel that feeling, and I definitely didn't want to feel it again. And then when I felt it, I mean, I sobbed about it for a couple days. I'm not gonna lie, you know, it was hard. It was hard feeling like you're nothing.
Yeah.
So
get that.
Yeah, bullying's not fun. Bullying's not something that I recommend going through. Did it give me character development? Yes.
You're like, I don't recommend it. Like,
yeah, like
10 out of 10 would not recommend. Like,
like if you could avoid it, sure, go off, do it. But like, I don't know. I kind of sit there and I just think about who I am now as a person. And how I kind of interacted with that bullying experience and how I've grown and developed from it. And I'm not saying that, thank you for bullying me, that's who I am today now, blah, blah, blah. No, but it did give me a sense of maturity really quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I was definitely like the old soul in my middle school, grade school era. And I mean, I want to say a little bit in high school too, but I was always like, I always felt like I was the adult, like I was mom. I mean, I would literally go sit with the lunchroom moms who would watch us eat lunch because I didn't have very many friends to sit with, you know,
Mm.
and that wasn't every single day, but I mean, I'd go sit with them because they were nice to me. Like the parents were nice.
It's so
So,
crazy, like thinking about people like, because I feel like you and I are pretty cool now. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like we're like pretty successful. Like I feel
I
like
mean,
we're
I will say that we're pretty cool.
yeah. But I mean,
Trendsetters.
like I just like you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. Like I feel like we're pretty cool. I mean, most people that like, and not saying like not to sit here and do like a brag, but like so many people that I interact with, they're like, you're such a like genuinely kind human. Like you are such a like
Right.
ray of
Yeah.
sunshine. You know what I'm saying? And just like are so complimentary to me. And I'm like, thank you. That's so kind of you to say it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just want to be a decent human being. Like I want to do like the things that decent human beings should do. You know, like I don't think we should be like rewarded for being good, but sadly we
Right.
have a society that rewards us for being good when it's just like we should just care for each other. We should just be good humans. You know what I'm saying? Like it
Right.
like you're doing the bare minimum. Like you're doing for people what you wish people would do for you. Like literally yesterday a lady like, and I think about stuff like this all the time, that it's like kindness isn't like, it's not like you're if you're doing something to be kind, you should be doing it without expecting a reward. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
Right.
there are instances where I'm like, no, your time is precious and people should pay you for your time, and that's a different story. You know what I'm saying? Like we just talked about that earlier before we started recording. But
Yeah.
like yesterday there was a lady that like I was going into the post office to ship an order because I had to like ship an order for my Etsy store. And she was like a little old lady, and I mean, it wasn't like she was like a damsel in distress, but she was a little old lady. She was walking with a cane, and she had a big old package in her hand. And so I walked around her pretty quickly and opened the door for her, and then I opened the second door for her, and she was like, "Thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate that." And I was like, "No problem." I was like, "You got your hands full. Like, no sense in you trying to open the door for yourself." You know what I'm saying? And so I
Right.
get in line, and it didn't like rub me the wrong way or anything like that, but this sort of thing I've had to be very careful because it does annoy me. And I have to be sure not to like be mean to people about that because people don't mean anything mean by it. But she turned around and was like, "Well, do you want to get in front of me since you've been so kind? Like, I don't want to, hold you up," because it was a long line. And I was like, "You're good. Like, you're perfectly fine. I'm one person behind you. You're okay. Like you literally, it's not going to make that much of a difference. And so it's like, you're fine. Like,
Right.
it's okay." Or like there was one day that like, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate the kind gesture in return, but like just be kind to someone else. Like if you see someone else who needs kindness, be kind to them. That's all you should do. Like there was a day that my friend Gabriella, shout out to Gabriella, not this Gabby, but a different Gabriella, was driving through Clinton. So we stopped and got breakfast. And so she was having some tire problems. So I went to Walmart to get a tire gauge and stuff like that. And while I was outside checking her tire pressure, these two old men pulled up. And I say old men, they were not like old, but just older men pulled
Right.
up in a minivan, and they were like, "Hey, do you know where this road is?" And like, even though Clinton is like, because Clinton is a small town, there are tons of like back roads and county roads that like you don't really know where they're at. You know what I'm saying? Like it can say Clinton, but it may be a 30-minute drive from where you're at, and you're just gonna be driving through farmland. And so they were like, "Do you know where this road's at?" And so I pulled it up on my GPS, and I was like, "Oh, it looks like you go back this way, and it's back towards like Higgins Ferry, which is like a place where people can swim here." And he was like, "Do you think you could pull that up on my phone?" And so I grabbed his phone and typed in the address, but it was taking so long to load. And so I was like, I've got it pulled up on my phone. If you'll give me a minute and let me get my friend on the road, because she has like a 3-hour drive and I want to make sure her tires aren't going to like bust. I'll just drive. Like I'll drive and you can follow me. And they were like, "Okay." And so they waited for about 10 minutes for me to get her like, situated and like check her tires and, get air back on them and everything and get her on the road. And then I drove them out there, and like they
Yeah.
like when we stopped, they were like, "Do you want us to give you some money for your gas?" And I was like, "No, like I'm fine. Like my car has really good gas mileage. Like it's literally, I'm not doing anything else today. Like I literally was meeting her for lunch, and then I have some house chores to do. This did nothing except for let me go on a drive where I can enjoy the view, you know, like."
Right.
And it's not like I'm not sitting there to say all that to like for a pat on the back. It's just like that you should do things like if you have the capability to be kind to someone without it taking away from you, and you see that someone is in need of that kindness, it should just be like human nature to be that way without receiving something in return. Like a good gesture or a kind gesture or like an act of kindness is not an act of kindness or a good gesture if you're expecting something in return, you know?
Yeah.
And like it's
No,
not
I agree.
transactional.
Right. No, I agree. And, tapping on two different things here, you mentioned like having people compliment you. I still go through it a lot, but like if people compliment me and they're like, oh my God, thank you for being so sweet or whatever, I'm like, thanks. And I don't believe it because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not, I'm not
Sharana.
cool. I'm not popular, like whatever. But like, I kind of had like a hard time for a really long time, like accepting. I mean, like I said, I still do, but like fully accepting a compliment and just taking it, just take it,
Mm-hmm. Just receive
just
it.
because yeah, because I just never had that. And then also like, yeah, like why aren't we more nice to each other? Like we're all the same. Like we're really
Mm-hmm.
all the same. We all breathe, we all drink, we all eat, we all go
Yeah.
to sleep. We all are trying to make it through this life. Why make it difficult if we don't have to?
Yeah. And this is like, I could go on and tell details about this for so long. So I'm just going to summarize this part. But like at Spring Hill, you remember, I was like there for a little bit. Like I literally had one of the health and safety officers were like, are you like an angel? Like what's happening? Because I just kept
Aw.
having situations where like something would happen in front of me and I'd be there and be able to act very quickly and like save a life, without being like dramatic or anything. But like there was a guy that I did CPR on whenever I was in college that he just had an accident, hit his head really hard and he had a seizure. And like I was there and
Right.
was able to act very quickly. And I, like did it, like he stopped breathing and I couldn't find a pulse for a little bit. I did CPR very, very shortly. Like it was not a long process. I think I did like 12 or 13 compressions and then he was right back, and I did all of
Mhm.
that by the time health and safety like got there, like the health and safety officers got there, and by the time the ambulance got there. And like we called both of them like when the situation very first started. And so like after that, I like got to go sit in on this board meeting and like there was like this big thing where they like announced it and spoke like all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just like blah blah
Wow.
blah. Like literally it was a whole thing. And people kept on like talking about how great I was and stuff like that. And I was like, I shouldn't be like we were because I was an RA that year, and like I was taught like how to do CPR as an RA, and I remember we had one director of residence life, and this is like we could do a whole episode on this shit because I got so much trauma because of this specific person that I'm about to talk to right now. But we had a director of residence life that got fired very early on in our school year. So then we had a different person that was from a different department transfer over to become the director of residence life. And so she at the very beginning was talking about how like it was a waste of time for us to have CPR training and stuff like that and like everything else. And like we shouldn't have been taught that. And then it was that year that I had to do CPR on somebody. And so from that, like there were people that like constantly were like, wow, you did amazing, like that's awesome, like, and I'm like, no, I just did what you should do. I had the capability
Right.
to be kind in that moment, to care for another human being that needed it, and I did it. Now that's a little bit dramatic, so like if you like are scared to start that process and you don't like you're not comfortable, like if you are CPR certified and you're not comfortable, you should not feel pressured to do it, because if you do it incorrectly, you could cause more damage than if you're confidently doing it. You know what I'm saying? So like
Right.
don't feel pressured by any means. Just disclaimer, don't feel pressured to put yourself in that situation. But I didn't. I like had been trained. I handle pressure very well. I saw a situation, I reacted very quickly. I did what any decent human being should do. And don't feel like I should be like rewarded for that. I feel like, I mean, don't get me wrong, like kind words of like, good job, you did that so well, or like, like recognition that I did a good job, totally cool. I love that. You know what I'm saying? But like,
But like a
don't like,
banquet and an
yeah, like
award and
literally,
yeah,
yeah.
no, that's
It's
too
like, it's
much.
not like I didn't like solve world hunger. I didn't go save like hundreds of thousands of people. I did, one, my job, but two, just like what a kind human being should do if they have the capability to do it, And like there was even a lady that like another, just summarizing it, whenever it was after I graduated, but I was still living on campus because you know how they do like the summer housing for recent graduates and stuff like that.
Right.
I found a lady that had collapsed outside of the apartment building, and she turns out she had had a stroke. And I went and sat with her and like helped clean her off and stuff like that, and sat with her until health and safety and an ambulance got there. And like that's when the like health and safety officer like made the comment. He's like, "Are you an angel? What's happened? Like why?" Because he was the same one that
Right.
responded the day that I did CPR on that guy. And so he was just like, you're such an amazing person. And her like family reached out to me and were like, you're awesome. We'd love to meet you. Like, we just want, and I was like, it's not like I just did what a decent human being would do. you know?
Right.
And like, it's sad that our world has become so numb to things like bullying and people being hateful and children being hateful that we don't see it as a big deal anymore. And we see it as a big deal when someone is kind, you know, like it should flip. We should like respond to kindness as if it should be normal, and then give kindness as it should be normal. Then we should treat it like a big deal when people are hateful and when people are mean, you know? But like, it's not
Yeah.
like that anymore. Well, I won't say anymore. It's never really been like that. We just like sugarcoated it and made it seem like the American dream before. But now it's like, you know.
Right. And I feel like there's going to be this like big revolution just in the sense of like a lot of things. I mean, we're already seeing, you know, people stand up for people in the workplace, where you have people that are standing up for people financially and low income and things like that. Like we're seeing
Strikes.
all of this. Yeah, we're seeing strikes. Like, and I'm sure it's going to continue, and every piece of life is going to become different. And I think it's just because the younger generations, I don't want to say like are tired of what the old generations have done, but we're kind
But
of
we are.
tired.
Yeah.
But we are. Like, I'm tired that I can't do certain things because I'm looked at as a child. I'm
Hmm.
about to be like, this is going to come out in September or whatever, and it's coming out, and I'm going to be 26, and I'm still like not being able to do what I want to do, and like that's kind of like crappy. I'm not saying pay me $1 million
Hmm.
or like whatever, but like I should be able to do certain things. And
Yeah.
so
You're like, I
I think,
work like
yeah,
sometimes 80 hours a week. I should be able to afford to live a life I want to live. You know, and it's not like you're not, and not saying not any shit or shade on anybody who works at a fast food restaurant, but you're like, I don't work at a fast food restaurant. You know, like I literally like, you know, like we
I
should be
mean,
able to
here's the
afford, you know.
thing. Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And I just I think it's like we have like politics are just like political bullying, and then we have like, you know, bullying in schools like kids, and then we have
Workplace
like bullying
bullying.
in adult workplace bullying. We have all these different things, and I know in my heart that we've already started this like big strike and this big everything, and I'm sure it's going to continue in every field of life. And I really do hope to see some good changes with what our generation and what our upcoming society will do, because I think there is still hope, and I think we've kind of lost that hope, um, just because we let people just do whatever. And I also, I mean, yes, do I understand that like some things are a little like sensitive, and then like people explode for no reason? Sure, but that's just human nature. But in
Hmm.
the end of the day, we need to start holding people accountable, and
Yeah.
we need to start making sure that kids have a healthy environment to grow up in, because
Hmm.
that's when they're learning who they are.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of like cancel culture by any means, because like, I mean, don't get me wrong, people need to be called out and people need to be held accountable.
Right.
But what cancel culture has like turned into, I had a friend with or I had a conversation with one of my friends that is from high school, but she's very liberal like me. We just both kind of went through similar like experiences with like getting away from our hometown and things like that. And she was talking about like how people have lost sight of like what cancel culture was about. Cancel culture was basically being like, hey guys, like I know we like all love this creator, but I want to draw attention to the fact that they did this really uncool thing. So therefore I'm unsubscribing to them. Like I'm, you know, it was like more of like I want to draw attention to this and say like, hey, you're allowed to not be on the fad. You're allowed to not be on the same vibe as them. Like if you don't like what they did, you can call it out, you know? And like instead of it staying like that kind of energy, cancel culture turned into this one person did this really bad thing and we're just going to call it out and then all hate them and ruin their life, you know? And it's like,
Right.
don't get me wrong, in some instances that may be warranted, but in other instances it's like, how do you expect people to grow? You know, like people learn and grow from making mistakes, and if
Right.
you're going to make their mistake punishable by death and punishable by like completely destroying their career, how do you expect people to grow? And I even made a TikTok about that a little while back, responding to Vanessa, who's been on an episode this season. And because she was talking about a situation which she removed the video. She told me I didn't have to remove my response, but she removed it just because she didn't want to cause problems with her job. So I'm not going to go into details, but basically there was a situation where somebody at her job was saying some inappropriate things to her as a Latina and saying inappropriate things to another person that they were talking to who was a black guy. And literally like in the like thing, she was afraid to call it out or talk about it because she was like, what if they don't recognize what they're doing? And I'm like, I'm in the comments and I was like, as a white person who has said stupid shit to people that are of other races and other ethnicities before that needed to be called out and got called out, you shouldn't, like, you need to call it out. You know, like you can be kind if you feel like she genuinely may not be understanding what she's doing. By all means, if you want to go about it in a kind way and try in an educational way, that's your right, and you have every right to be that way. But it needs to be called out. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
you know, and I
agreed.
was like, you know, and I told her I was like, I'm sorry that you're the person that's been put in this position. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not fair for you to have to educate somebody, but like white people thinking they can do and say whatever they want to is what has gotten us to where we are today. People have to start being called out. And so she told me, she was like, I did end up calling that person out. She was like, you know, I went and I just like talked to them. She was like, I removed the video because I wanted to do it in a very not confrontational way. I brought it to the people at work's, you know, attention, and I went and talked to her directly. She was very apologetic, very receptive. She genuinely seemed like she did not understand like that what she said was offensive, but she did realize it when I pointed it out. And she was like, so I think that it went really well. And I was like, good, I'm so glad. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad it went that way. And Vanessa gave her grace. And I hope she doesn't mind me talking about this, but she gave her grace and like, you know what I'm saying? Like gave her permission to, you know, learn. And like, that's what society should like, that's what I feel like cancel culture should be about, is like giving people the opportunity to learn, like canceling behavior, not people, you know?
Right. Yeah, agreed. And I think we do need to show those who are making mistakes grace. Just kind of like as you mentioned, because like, I mean, do I have do I have bad memories of bullying and all that? Yes, absolutely. It will stay with me for a really long time. But does it hold a heavy weight on my heart? And do I hate those people? No, no, I
Mhm.
don't. It's part of my experience. It's part of like how I've grown as a person. And I'm not afraid to talk about it. And I'm not afraid to say what I have to say, to feel like you're not alone, feel like other people are not alone. But I'm also not going to sit there and be like, this person was such a blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
I give them grace. They were children.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they've grown and became adults and understand that their actions have consequences. And that's all I can hope for. And
Yeah.
that's what I have. I mean, there's plenty of people, there's plenty more stories, but like in the end of the day, they were people, they made mistakes. I'm willing to forgive them. I hope
Yeah.
they don't make that again.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to hold it against them either.
Exactly. And I think that, you know, like an apology and a sign of growth goes a very long way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
somebody that like genuinely hurt me in the past came to me and was like, hey, I just wanted to tell you that I'm really sorry. Like I've done a lot of growth and reflecting since our situation, and I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. I'd be like, water under the bridge. No, like honestly, I'd literally in
Yeah,
that
whatever.
moment, like I'd forget it. You know what I'm saying? I'd like literally count it as if they never did it, because it's like, if you've really grown enough to where you want to come to me and apologize this far after it, like even those people that like bullied me in high school and junior high school and like really like caused a lot of trauma in like my romantic life and things like that, like even to this day, that like I'm still working through. Even if they came to me and were like, you know, I'm really sorry for the way I treated you in high school, I'd be like, water under the bridge,
Whatever.
all's forgiven,
Well,
no
and here's the
worries
thing,
at all, you know?
and here's the thing, if it's a real apology, you
Mm-hmm.
know it's coming from a good place. I mean, I will also say that I've had people reach out and be like, I'm sorry for hurting your feelings, but this is why I did it, and this is
Mm-hmm.
why I don't like. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so you're not really apologizing.
Like, what was your point in reaching out to me? What was the point in doing
Correct.
this?
Correct.
Like you
just
obviously
to make
don't
you
actually feel
feel
bad.
better.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's just to make you feel better. And I still like in my heart forgive those people because they don't know. They
Mm-hmm.
don't get it.
Yeah.
But am I going to sit there and be best friends with them? Am I going to sit there and talk with them every day? Am I going to
Mm-hmm.
sit there and associate myself? No.
Yeah.
No. Because what they said was not a real apology. If someone came up to me and was like, I am sincerely sorry, and they mean it, I could care less what you did 5 minutes ago. Like
Mm-hmm.
I
And there's
don't
like a real
hold it
sign of
against
growth.
people.
Like if it seems like you're genuinely trying to change and grow, like I'm like, okay, cool. I appreciate that. You know, like
Yeah.
good luck to you in your life. Like I hope nothing but good things for you. You know?
Right, 100%. And with bullying, there's just always has to be a little bit of forgiveness and
Mm-hmm.
showing that person love, because I'm sure that even though they are doing these negative actions or words or whatever towards you, they're also struggling. There's also something going on in their life, and that's okay to forgive, but also addressing the issue and being like, hey,
Yeah.
you did this to me.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about it for a while, so I will wrap it up soon because I just don't want to, go on and on and on. But I didn't realize how much I could talk about with this topic, and how much things are like fruitful for this, like for today. But I remember one time that this was like such an eye-opening thing to me whenever I was in high school. I was the editor of the yearbook my senior year, and I was like in like part of the yearbook staff from like my sophomore year on, I think. And we helped with like picture day. So like whenever like pictures were going on at school, like whenever like we had the photographers coming on to take pictures and stuff like that, we would go and help and organize like students and things like that at different times. And to keep us from like missing too many classes, we had like schedules that we would come. And so there was a part where like it was a slow period. So like the teacher that was in charge of the yearbook let me kind of manage it by myself, like the one part by myself, because I was the editor. And there was this guy, and I say guy, he was like years younger than me, like several years younger than me. And he was like a kid, and so I was a senior, so I was probably like 17, 18. And so he, there were basically we did like our picture days in the auditorium, and we would do it on the stage. So we'd like have the stage set up as like a photography little area, and then we would have kids come sit in the auditorium, wait, and then like, we go in and do their turn. And so we had two different sets of stairs, that really four, but two that they were using to get onto the stage. And kids were taking whichever they wanted to. They didn't care. Like they would just go up and then go route around how they were supposed to go. And so basically, there's this kid that he had, I forget what it is, but it's like a disorder where you, was it muscular dystrophy? I really hope I'm not saying the wrong thing, but I'll describe the symptoms where basically your like muscles don't form correctly, and like you don't have the strength you're supposed to, and you're not able to like, do things that like quote unquote normal people can do, you know what I'm saying? Like because your muscles are really weak and you just don't build strength well. And most people that have whatever this disorder is are like end up being wheelchair bound at some point. And but he had it at a very young age, and so it would take him a while to like walk up like stairs and stuff like that. His mom, like my mom and I were talking about this actually recently, was always kind of hard on him, and like not in like a mean kind of way, like in a you can do anything any other kid can do, like, and tried to just help him like find new ways to do it. And now in adulthood, like he barely has any problems. He still has the disorder, but like he would walk with a really bad limp, and like it would take him a really long to get places. Now like he walks around perfectly fine. And so like yeah, and so but he was walking up one of the sets of stairs, and all the other little kids went up the other set of stairs, and there was a girl that came up walking behind him, and he was taking a while, but like he had a reason, since I was just sitting there with him, paying attention to him, telling them what to do, like with him, like while I was standing with him. And so this little girl comes up to walk behind him, and she's sitting there and she goes, "Hurry up," and like starts yelling at him and like being mean to him, and kind of shoves him a little bit. And it took everything in me not to like bitch slap this little kid. You know what I'm saying?
God.
Like I literally I yelled at her. Like as a child, like as a teenager, I yelled at her and was like, "No, you shut up and go around and take the other set of stairs." I was like, "You don't sit here and tell." And she was like, "Well, he's just taking a really long time." I was like, "Okay, then go around. If you think it'll take you less time to go over there, go over there." I was like, "How about you mind your own business?" And she literally was just like, "Ah," and she like ran off. And like I think she even said something like, "I'm telling Miss blah blah blah," like whatever her teacher's name was. And I was like, "Tell her, and I'll tell her that you were being mean to this little boy." And she was like, "Ah," and like ran off. And the little boy was just so embarrassed. And he was like, "I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Don't you apologize?" Like, I was so upset. I was like, "Do not apologize." Like, I was like, "You better not apologize." I was like, "You take your time." And I was like, "I'm here for you." I was like, "Screw these other little kids." I literally told him, I was like, "Screw them, forget them. They can do whatever they want to." I was like, "I'm here for you." And he's like, "Okay, thank you." And I just like helped him up the stairs. And then he was able to, like, I went and walked with him back down the steps. And like, he went home and told his mom about it, and told his mom like how nice I was to him. And so I didn't realize that his mom knew my mom, but apparently they like, we all know each other very well. And I did not realize who he was, but she called my mom and was like, "Your son like stood up for my son today and like made his day." And like made his like basically yeah. And like apparently he like had the confidence like to keep pushing, you know what I'm saying, after that. And it like really changed his like life, and I hate to be like, "Oh, I was a life changer," like it wasn't like that. It's just, but that like broke me. Like I literally, after that day was over with, I cried. Like I literally just went into my guidance counselor's class and just like sobbed, and like, or my guidance counselor's class, her office, and just like sobbed. Also, like, shout out to Miss Cochran you a real one. But like she helped me get into college.
You a
and shit
real
like that.
one.
But anyways, like I literally just went there and sobbed, and I was like, how, like, why is life like this? You know, like I don't understand. And then this was also like after the whole situation where like the who's voting thing happened too. And I remember I just like cried to her, and I was like, so many people, like I was like, all these people, like so many people here claim to be like Christians and like Christ-like and like want to like spread God's love, but they treat people like this. I was like,
Yeah.
they're like, I was like, I don't understand. I was like, I believe in God and I believe in Jesus, which I still do to this day. I'm not a Christian, but I believe in God and Jesus, and I think Jesus was amazing. And I think that we should all strive to be like Christ-like, but actually Christ-like, not like what like modern some Christianity like tells you what being
Right.
Christ-like is like. You know what I'm saying? But
just love everyone. Just be nice.
exactly, be kind to people, like show people love, show people grace, show people patience, like do not judge people, like hate structured religion as Jesus did. But anyway, so yeah, anyway, so
Say
I
it with
remember
your
I was just like,
chest.
honestly, we need to make shirts for Enhance that say like say it with your chest.
Say it with your chest. Yeah.
I might design some. But anyways, so I literally though, I was just like, I don't understand like how, like, and I was just telling her, like, so many people claim to be like Christians and Christ-like and like spread God's love, and they go and preach this like life, but they treat other people like this. I was like, how can they tell me that like there is a couple here that everyone knows they're a couple? How can they tell me that like I'm not allowed to include them on a who's ballot? And then like so many people here like see this kid who is literally struggling with a health problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
that's the reason. It's not that he's just like being lazy. It's not that he's just sitting there like taking a sweet and precious time walking upstairs. But also, if he was, what about it? Like, oh, well, people have a right to live their life how they want to. If it's not affecting you, leave them alone. But anyways, so I remember just like crying to her and being like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. And I was like, how can like seeing this stuff hurt me so deeply? But like other people just don't think about it. And she was like, Sam, she was like, some people like, they like, I forget exactly what she said, but she was like, the gist of her like response was, God's love means something different to everyone. She was like, you know, some people like claim to be like Christ-like and like seek God's love and things like that, by thinking they have to follow a set of rules. But then some people like just try to be kind and share love, and that's God's love to them. And she was like, ultimately, at the end of the day, we should all want to care for one another, like the way that you're talking about. She was like, but sadly, some people just are not taught that that's God's love. And like, and she's a Christian too. I mean, I'm pretty sure she is. I like see her post on it, but she like went to a Methodist like church, which is like taboo in Clinton, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody was either Baptist or Pentecostal here. But like, she still was enough to be like, to recognize what I was saying and to recognize that like, just because you view something differently from somebody doesn't mean that you should treat them any less than a human, you know?
Be nice to people. Lesson. Be nice to people.
Yeah.
Be kind. Be a light for everyone.
Yeah. In closing, I will say that I actually formed a school whenever I was in I formed a club whenever I was in high school called Be There. And people like looking back, it was kind of like cringy, but also like I think it was really sweet. It was like everybody knew it as the like anti-bullying club, but it wasn't like a like that's literally what people called it, but it was like not meant to be that way. It was like created to be like an advocacy club where like just teaching people to see things from other people's point of views. I was like diet liberal. You know what I'm saying? Like I literally
diet liberal. I'm so
like
upset.
literally I was like, you know, like I'm a Christian and I believe in God and I may have conservative views, but I think we should all love one another and like hear each other's point of views and like understand how we affect each other. So I was like diet liberal, you know? And so literally, but I still like me, and it was the vice president of she was like one of my best friends, and she was like the vice president of my senior class and everything, but we were like really close friends all throughout high school. We created this club called Be There, and it was like the Be There Club, and basically we would do like things at school, like we would do these programs like during like we literally would have like assemblies and stuff where we would like our class would go and act and like do these like skits and stuff to like show like different situations that people could go through. Like we did one where like there was this girl that got bullied, and she like very dramatically, trigger warning, but also like not dramatically because this shit happens all the time, but she was bullied and like all of her friends started like talking really bad about her, and she committed suicide. And we did one that was like this girl that was dating, this white girl was dating a black guy, and like all of her friends were making fun of them and like calling them trash and stuff like that. And like we did the skit talking about like Yeah, we we're like a little ahead of our time, honestly. But like, and my school would let us do it. Our school would like let us like, and because we also had like, there was a police officer that used to be involved at all the schools, and he would like come around and he like sponsored it and like was a big part of it and wanted us to start going to other schools too and doing it. And so but yeah, so like the school would actually let us do it, which is so crazy to me that like little Clanton, Alabama, but even Miss like I said, Miss Cochran, the like guidance counselor, shout out, she a real one. She would like help with it and everything. So I think it was because so many people were like helping with it, the school was fine with it. But we like really like, I mean, we showed like why we shouldn't judge people who are in interracial relationships, because that was a big thing that happened like in my town, is people would get judged for that, or like why we shouldn't like, you know, like we should like listen to people whenever they've been bullied and things like that, you know, like, and just different stuff like that. And like also like, you know, religious differences, and we did all kinds of stuff. So I'm like, my friend that did that club with me, she reached out to me here recently, just because we have each other on Snapchat and other social media, so we'll talk every once in a while. But she sent me this article that was for one of the schools here in Chilton County. I forget which one it was, but there was like a bullying incident that the like newspaper like reported on. And she was, I really wish we could do like be there again, but like, you know, as adults go like talk to, you know, students about stuff like that. And I was like, well, I have a company called Enhanced Productions that one of the things I want to do is go like do mentorship programs and like a career readiness programs at schools and like volunteer and stuff like that to do these like assemblies and stuff. I was like, maybe we can talk about it and get it together and do like a little version of Be There, but like in adulthood. And like, you know, and she was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'd love that. So maybe that's something we'll do. Gabby, however you feel about that, like we might jump in and do that like in the future. So, and just talk about like, you know, do little assemblies or like live shows and stuff like that, talking about just being kind to others, you know? So let us know if that's something you'd be interested in. Yeah, let us know if that's something you'd be interested in, guys. Yeah. Shoot us a message, comment, you know, all that stuff. Let us know. Let us know if that's something that you think would be a cool thing for Enhance to do.
Yeah. Well, sunny side up eggs.
Yeah, I know, honestly. If you ever, I do want to put this out there. If you guys ever want to reach us and like, you know, send suggestions or like ever want to be a co-host or like a guest host, or if you ever want to sponsor or be a partner to Enhance, you can email us at inquire@enhance.productions. So inquire is INQUIRE @enhance.productions. So
you had to really think about that.
No, I just did it slowly.
You were like INQ.
You don't like take pauses whenever you're spelling stuff or like saying things out?
No, I do, but it like you look like you were thinking.
Oh. I mean, I know how to spell it. So many people think that it starts with an E though. So that I do have to always second guess myself. Yeah, I guess because it's like next to enhance, people are like inquire, ENQUIRE at enhance. And I'm like, but no. Inquire has an I. Yeah. And I should have probably done something simple like info@enhance.production. But I was like, no, we're going to be fancy and put inquire, because I also set up the email that's for, you know, Sid's blog and everything. So that way, whenever people submit, like, you're technically writing like a query or inquiring about how, like, if you're ever doing any type of writing, you're writing a query letter, or you're doing a like inquisition or something like that, like for your writing to be represented. So I was like, inquire. I feel like it makes sense. But yeah, anyway, so if you ever want to reach us and like give us feedback, give suggestions, give topic ideas that you think would be really cool, want us to expand on something, want to be a guest host, like want to be a sponsor, a partner, reach out at inquire@enhance.productions.
Or even hit us up on our Instagrams or our Enhance Instagram or individual Instagrams. Personals. We'll be more than happy to
our TikToks
chat. Our TikToks.
Mm-hmm.
Girl dinner.
Girl dinner.
Girl dinner. Girl dinner.
Anywho.
Yeah, so. Now that we've got that done, you guys have a blessed and loved day.
Yeah.
Positive
Happy
vibes
Saturday.
only.
Happy Saturday. Mwah.
Mwah.
All right. Well, until next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Peace.
Thank you so much for listening to Enhance Podcast. I am Sam, one of your hosts.
And I'm your other host, Gabby Sabat.
If you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SamDifYouDo.
You can find me on TikTok at GabbyS80 and on Instagram at GSABAT97.
And if you want to follow the podcast, you can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at enhance.productions.publishing.
And check us out on our website at enhance.productions. Enhance your peace
your joy,
and your existence.